7 tracks that I wrote with the guitarist on the next album coming out.
There's always been something about Suzi Quatro and Chris Norman that felt unfinished, like a story missing its final piece. For years, fans speculated, picking up on subtle hints neither of them fully addressed. But now, decades later, Suzi is finally breaking that silence. And at the center of it all is one night she's never spoken about this openly before. A night that, according to her, changed everything, not just in the moment, but in ways that lingered long after. The origin of a rock icon. Suzi Quatro was born on June 3, 1950, in Detroit, Michigan, right into a household that sounded more like a rehearsal studio than a family home. She was the fourth of 5 children, surrounded by siblings who all played instruments, and music wasn't just encouraged, it was constant. Her roots ran deep. On her father's side, the family traced back to Italy. Her grandfather, Michael Quattrocchi, had emigrated from Palermo, Sicily, at just 9 years old. Somewhere along the way, immigration officials shortened the name to Quatro, a small change that would eventually become iconic in the world of rock. Like so many artists of her generation, everything shifted the moment she saw the Beatles on television. That single broadcast lit a fire, not just in Suzi, but in the entire household. Suddenly, making music wasn't just something their father did, it became a shared mission. And they had the perfect guide. Her father balanced factory work in Detroit's car industry with nights as a jazz musician, filling the house with instruments and, more importantly, discipline. Suzi didn't exactly choose her instrument. During a family discussion about forming a band, she hesitated for just a second too long, and her sister Patty made the decision for her. She would play bass, just like that. What followed was anything but ordinary. Instead of handing her a beginner setup, her father gave her a 1957 Fender Precision bass, complete with a gold scratch plate, a sunburst finish, and an original Fender Bassman amp. It was the kind of gear most musicians only dream of, and it set the tone early. This wasn't going to be a casual hobby. But the real foundation he gave her went beyond instruments. He instilled a level of professionalism that would shape her entire career. Still, the moment that truly changed everything came even earlier. At just 5.5 years old, Suzi sat with her family watching The Ed Sullivan Show when Elvis Presley appeared on screen performing "Don't Be Cruel." In that instant, something clicked. The song itself already had a story. Written by Otis Blackwell and recorded in 1956, it became one of Elvis's defining hits. Blackwell, confident in its potential, even agreed to give up half the royalties and credit Elvis as co-writer just to ensure it would be recorded. The gamble paid off. The track sold millions and remained a staple of Elvis's performances for decades. But for Suzi, it wasn't about charts or deals. It was about impact. Watching Elvis in that moment didn't just entertain her, it gave her direction. Even as a child, she made a bold, almost unbelievable decision. She was going to be like him. That feeling never faded. Even years later, she would describe getting the same rush every time she revisited that performance. Her journey into music had already begun by then. At just 6 years old, she was playing bongos in her father's jazz group, the Art Quattro Trio. It was her first taste of performing, and it came with expectations. Her father ran his own agency, and from the start, Suzi was taught that talent meant nothing without work ethic. She spent her early years training on piano and percussion, building a solid musical foundation. But everything shifted again when she turned 14. That was when she teamed up with her sister Patty and a few local girls to form an all-female band called the Pleasure Seekers. They stepped straight into the rising garage rock scene of the mid-1960s, a movement spreading through college towns across North America. It was raw, stripped down, and rebellious. The songs were simple, the structures basic, and the focus was all on energy rather than polish. That simplicity was exactly what made it powerful. At a time when mainstream music felt distant and untouchable, garage rock sent a clear message. Anyone could pick up an instrument and start a band. But there was one problem. The scene was overwhelmingly male. Very few female bands were taken seriously, especially on the radio. That's what made the Pleasure Seekers stand out. Formed in 1964 in Detroit, one of the genre's key hubs, The band was led by Patty and Suzi, just teenagers at the time, and they weren't treated as a novelty for long. Their sound was loud, gritty, and impossible to ignore. They brought a level of intensity that matched and often rivaled their male counterparts. Early on, they played the cabaret circuit, where audiences often focused more on appearance than musicianship. To get bookings, the band sometimes had to lean into that expectation, performing in miniskirts and wigs just to get their foot in the door. Patty would later describe it as a necessary compromise. But once they were on stage, everything changed. The image might have drawn attention, but the performance is what kept it. Before long, the Pleasure Seekers became a fixture in Detroit's music scene. By 1966, the Pleasure Seekers were ready to make their mark. They released their debut single, Never Thought You'd Leave Me. But the real story sat on the flip side of that record. The B-side, What a Way to Die, carried a bold, almost reckless energy that set them apart. With its striking hook about not making it past 21 but going out in style, the song tapped into a spirit that would later define rock culture, long before it became a cliché. The single didn't catapult them to instant fame, but it did something just as important. It got the industry's attention. Within 2 years, they reached a milestone that very few female acts had achieved at the time. In 1968, they became one of the first all-female bands to sign with a major label, Mercury Records. They followed that up with another release, Light of Love, but by then, the ground beneath them was already shifting. The late 60s were moving fast, and the raw, stripped-down garage rock sound that had once felt fresh was starting to lose its edge with mainstream audiences. Instead of fading with it, the band adapted. They began experimenting, blending in elements of Motown-style R&B, psychedelic textures inspired by the era's biggest records, and even early shades of heavier rock. It was a clear sign. They weren't just reacting to change, they were trying to stay ahead of it. That evolution eventually led to a complete transformation. By 1969, they shed their original identity and re-emerged as Cradle. The new name reflected a heavier, more mature sound, and the band threw themselves into the grind. They toured relentlessly, even performing for troops in Vietnam in 1971. Musicians respected them, their reputation grew, but the record deals never followed. That's when things took a turn. The fifth Quatro sibling, Michael, had stepped in as the band's manager, and he saw an opportunity. He managed to bring a major figure into the picture, British producer Mickey Most, a man known for discovering the Animals and producing hits for artists like Donovan and Lulu. At the time, Most was in Detroit working with the Jeff Beck Group at Motown Studios, and he agreed to come see Cradle perform. What happened next felt almost cinematic. Suzi took the stage alongside her sisters, Patty and Nancy, in front of a room that didn't yet realize it was about to witness a turning point. She played just 2 songs that night. One was an original, Brain Confusion. The other was a full-throttle version of Jailhouse Rock. It didn't take a full set. 2 songs were enough. As she played, Jeff Beck leaned over to Mickey Most and pointed directly at her, the bass player. Most didn't hesitate. He had already made up his mind. The performance hit him so hard that he immediately called his wife back in London, trying to explain what he had just seen. Even he struggled to put it into words. All he knew was that he had found something. After the show, he didn't waste time. He pulled Suzi aside, looked her in the eye, and offered her a future she hadn't imagined so clearly until that moment. He wanted to take her to London and record her. What made the moment even more interesting was the timing. That same week, another major label had approached her with an offer. Elektra Records saw her as a replacement, someone who could step into the void left by Janis Joplin. But Mickey Most saw something else entirely. He wasn't trying to turn her into the next version of someone else. He wanted to build something original around her. Still, Suzi wasn't ready to just accept words. She wanted to prove herself. Not long after, she found herself inside Motown Studios. Instead of being overwhelmed by the weight of the place, she treated it like another stage. She spotted an empty space, saw a bass guitar nearby, and decided to make a statement the only way she knew how, by playing. She picked it up and started jamming, not overthinking it, just letting instinct take over. Soon enough, Jeff Beck and Cozy Powell joined in, and the room turned into an impromptu session built around the groove of Sissy Strut by the meters. What she didn't fully process in that moment was the history she had stepped into. The bass she grabbed belonged to James Jamerson, one of the most influential players in music history, and one of her personal heroes. Years later, when they finally met, Jamerson gave her a blunt but meaningful nod of approval, the kind that carried weight coming from someone like him. By 1971, the path ahead became clear. Suzi made the decision to leave Cradle and take Mickie Most up on his offer. She moved to England and signed with RAK Records, stepping into the next chapter of her career. The moment everything finally clicked. September 1971, Suzi Quatro packs her bags and heads to England, chasing a bold promise from producer Mickie Most. He's going to make her a star. And right away, it feels like a dream. The morning after she lands, she's riding through London in his gold Rolls-Royce, headed to his offices on Oxford Street. On paper, the plan is simple. Sign her to RAK, build a band around her, record an album, and send her back home polished and ready. Clean, efficient, almost too easy, because that's not how it plays out. Instead of an overnight breakthrough, it turns into a slow, grinding climb. Those early years hit hard. She arrives with her sister, but once her sister returns to the States, the loneliness creeps in. Day after day, she's in the studio writing, trying to find her sound. Night after night, she goes home alone. No money, no real support system, just the weight of a dream that suddenly feels very far away. It takes nearly a year of trial and error before something finally clicks. The turning point comes with a song called Rolling Stone, co-written with Errol Brown. It's not a global smash, but it doesn't need to be. It's a spark, a sign they're finally onto something. And with Mickie Most behind her, doors start opening, big ones. He's able to bring in top-tier musicians for sessions, including Peter Frampton, fresh off his time with Humble Pie. At one session, Most even pulls Suzi aside and hints that Frampton could be part of her band. But just as quickly as the idea appears, it's gone. After the session, Most shuts it down completely. There's only going to be one star here, and it's Suzi. He already sees Frampton's future, and he's not about to let anyone share her spotlight. It's a ruthless decision, but a calculated one. Rolling Stone might only catch fire in places like Portugal, but it gives Suzi momentum. Enough to start building her own band, enough to get her on bigger stages. Soon, she's opening for heavyweights like Slade and Thin Lizzy. By early 1972, she's out on the college circuit. This is where the real work begins. Mickie Most is everywhere, lining up gigs, securing an agent, even helping finance their gear. But he also makes one thing very clear. This is Suzi's band. When the equipment arrives, he singles her out for the best amp, right in front of everyone. It's not subtle, it's not diplomatic either, but it sends a message that sticks. And just like that, the pressure shifts. Now she has to live up to it. Touring with Slade and Thin Lizzy becomes her baptism by fire. Night after night, she's thrown in front of crowds who don't know her, don't expect much, and then have to rethink everything they thought they knew about a woman in rock. She's got just 20 minutes to prove herself, and she makes every second count. Somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, something unexpected happens. She falls in love, and not with the lifestyle, not with the spotlight, but with her own guitar player, Len Tuckey. What starts as life on the road turns into something real. They end up building a life together, marriage, kids, and 2 decades side by side, both on stage and off. But while her personal life is taking shape, her career is still searching for that defining moment. That comes in 1973. Mickie Most brings in the songwriting duo Mike Chapman and Nicky Chinn, better known as Chinny Chap. They specialize in one thing: crafting hits. Up to this point, Most hasn't quite cracked how to capture Suzi's raw energy in the studio, but Chapman gets it instantly. He sees what others missed. She's a boogie-driven rocker, and that energy needs to lead, not be polished away. The result is Can the Can. When Most hears it, he doesn't hesitate. He calls her in and tells her straight, this is it. After everything, she finally has a number 1. But the sound isn't the only thing that needs defining. The image matters too. When the conversation turns to visuals, Suzi has one word: leather. Most pushes back, says it's outdated, overdone. But she doesn't budge. Not by her, she insists. Eventually, he gives in, and then adds one final twist. What about a jumpsuit? That single decision changes everything. The leather jumpsuit becomes more than a look. It becomes a statement. When she steps on stage in it, bass in hand, she's not just performing. She's challenging expectations. Audiences aren't just watching a show, they're witnessing something new. And then the moment arrives. Living in Crouch End with Len Tuckey, the phone rings early one morning. The label is on the line. They've arranged a private plane to get her to a gig in Bristol. She hates flying, but this isn't optional. Because Can the Can has just hit #1. It doesn't just top the charts, it redraws them. Suzi Quatro steps into a space that barely existed before. A female rock artist fronting her own band, playing bass, commanding the stage, and doing it all on her own terms. There's no blueprint to follow, so she becomes one. A career that wouldn't sit still. After that first breakthrough, Suzi Quatro locks into a system that changes everything. She focuses on crafting her album tracks and B-sides, while the hit-making duo Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin take charge of the singles. It's the same formula they used to launch The Sweet into superstardom, and it works just as well here. The momentum is immediate, and it opens the floodgates for a string of chinny chap-driven hits, including 48 Crash and Devilgate Drive. On the surface, Devilgate Drive feels like pure glam, flashy, loud, and dripping with 1974 attitude. But underneath all that glitter, there's something much older. Strip it back, and it's built on a simple 12-bar blues structure. Add a bit of swing, layer in Suzi's raw delivery, and suddenly it becomes something electric. A bridge between rock's roots and its future. That's where Suzi stands out. Coming from Detroit, she carries an instinct for rock and roll that feels lived in, not manufactured. While many of the glam acts around her lean into style and spectacle, she brings something more grounded. Whether she's sharing the stage with established acts or watching the next wave of punk begin to rise, there's a sense that she understands the music at its core. Even when the sound reaches back into blues traditions, the lyrics stay locked in the present. They capture that restless teenage energy, the mix of confidence, rebellion, and just enough chaos to feel dangerous. It's the same spirit embodied by Marlon Brando in The Wild One, that feeling of pushing back against anything and everything, even without a clear reason why. In many ways, glam rock becomes the soundtrack for that early burst of youthful energy, colorful, exaggerated, full of life. But as that energy matures, it hardens. That's where punk begins to take over, and Suzi, in her own way, helps lay the groundwork for that shift in the UK. She even maps that journey directly in her music, from the carefree energy of childhood to the sharper edges of adolescence. Everything builds toward that moment when rebellion takes over completely. Devilgate Drive isn't a real place, it's symbolic. It's anywhere you weren't supposed to go, and that's exactly why you go there. By 1975, another shift begins. With the release of her third album, Your Mama Won't Like Me, it's clear she's moving away from the glam boogie formula. The sound evolves into something funkier, looser, and more experimental. Wah-wah guitars, synth textures, brass sections. It's a different atmosphere entirely. The album opens strong with I Bit Off More Than I Could Chew, showing that the new direction can still hit hard. But as it goes on, the results become uneven. Some tracks land, others don't quite connect. It's a period of exploration, and not every risk pays off. What's interesting is that while the music softens in places, her voice doesn't. If anything, it becomes sharper, more aggressive, more textured. There's a rasp there now, a bite that pushes back against the smoother production. After this phase, her career enters a more unpredictable stretch. She experiments with different styles, occasionally circling back to her harder rock roots, but without the same consistent impact. By the late 70s, the chart success starts to fade, but then comes another pivot. She finds a new lane with Stumblin' In, a duet with Chris Norman of Smokey. The idea reportedly sparks in a casual setting when Chapman notices the natural chemistry between the two. That observation turns into a studio session, and almost immediately, the concept clicks. The result is a complete contrast to Suzi's established image. Gone is the gritty, leather-clad rocker persona. In its place is something softer, more accessible. The song leans into a country pop rhythm with a simple, uplifting tone. It's about young love, awkward, hopeful, and full of possibility. And it works. The track connects with a wider audience, especially in the United States, becoming one of her biggest international hits. It shows a different side of her, one that fans hadn't fully seen before, and proves she isn't locked into a single identity. More than that, it holds up over time. It becomes one of those rare songs that never really fades, continuing to resonate long after its release. Around the same period, her visibility in America gets another major boost when she joins the cast of Happy Days. Cast as Leather Tuscadero, she steps into a role that feels almost tailor-made for her image. The opportunity reportedly comes from something as simple as a photograph. Someone spots her look and sees the character instantly. What starts as a gamble quickly pays off when she proves she can handle the role with ease. The experience ends up being more than just a side project. It gives her a fresh creative spark at a time when she needs it most. It also introduces her to a whole new audience and opens doors beyond music. Just as importantly, it leaves her with lasting connections. She forms genuine friendships with cast members like Ron Howard and Henry Winkler, relationships that continue long after the cameras stop rolling. At one point, the network even offers her a spin-off series of her own. It's a major opportunity, but she turns it down. By then, her priorities have shifted. She's married to Len Tucky and settles into life in Essex, trading constant motion for something more grounded. But even away from the spotlight, things aren't entirely simple. Balancing a rock career with a personal life brings its own tensions, and the realities of marriage don't always align with the chaos of the music world. It becomes another kind of challenge, less visible than the stage, but just as demanding. By 1982, Suzi becomes a mother, welcoming her daughter and then a son 2 years later. The house is fuller, louder, and more grounded than ever, but that restless creative energy never really leaves her. Even with a young family, she feels the pull to step back into the spotlight, this time through acting. That opportunity finally arrives in a role she's had her eye on for years. Annie Oakley in the stage musical Annie Get Your Gun. It's not just luck, it's something that's been quietly building in the background. Andrew Lloyd Webber had been encouraging her toward the part for a long time, convinced she had exactly what it needed. But Suzi doesn't pause everything else to make it happen. She keeps moving. Throughout this period, she continues touring across the world, including a demanding 6-week run in Australia. And instead of leaving her family behind, she brings them along. It's a balancing act. Motherhood on one side, life on the road on the other, but she refuses to choose just one. By 1986, everything finally comes together. Annie Get Your Gun opens in London's West End, marking a major step into a new chapter of her career. At the same time, though, the music landscape is shifting. By the late 80s, her presence on the charts has faded. She's still releasing material here and there, but it no longer lands the way it once did. Still, she doesn't disappear. If anything, she becomes even more active, touring, acting, taking on new challenges wherever they appear. One standout moment comes in 1989 when she tours Russia. It's a rare and powerful experience, especially given the political climate of the time, and it leaves a lasting impression, a fitting, almost surreal way to close out the decade. But behind the scenes, the constant motion starts to take its toll. Suzi throws herself into everything: stage work, television appearances in shows like Minder and Dempsey and Makepeace, charity recordings, endless touring. It's the same drive that built her career, but now it begins to strain her personal life. By 1992, her marriage to Len Tucky reaches its breaking point. The gap between them isn't about conflict as much as direction. She keeps pushing forward, chasing new experiences, while he struggles to keep pace with that momentum. Eventually, they separate. It's not an easy decision. Her Catholic upbringing weighs heavily on her, and even more so the impact it might have on their children, Laura and Richard, who are still very young. The emotional fallout is real, and she later acknowledges that it affects them deeply. Still, she and Len managed to maintain a level of respect and understanding through it all. Life shifts again not long after. About a year later, she meets Rainer Haas. Their relationship grows quickly, and by 1993, they're married. But they approach things differently. Instead of settling into a traditional setup, they choose to live in separate homes, moving back and forth between them. It's unconventional, but it suits their personalities, giving each of them space while keeping the connection strong. And through every change, one thing stays constant. Suzi never stops. She continues to tour, record, and explore new creative outlets. She publishes poetry, collaborates with other musicians, and even forms a supergroup alongside Andy Scott of The Sweet and Don Powell of Slade. Decades into her career, she's still pushing forward. Suzi Quatro speaks on her night with Chris Norman, that changed everything. For years, Suzi Quatro and Chris Norman were moving through the same world. Two artists at the height of their powers, navigating the chaos of the British and European rock scene. Their paths didn't just cross once or twice, they kept running into each other again and again. Backstage, in studios, across tours, the connection was always there, steady and familiar. From the outside, it looked like a strong professional bond. The collaborations, the interviews, the mutual respect, it was all well documented. But underneath that, there was always a quiet question hanging in the air. Fans noticed it. The media circled it. Was there something deeper going on behind the scenes? That question never really went away. Over the years, both of them spoke highly of each other, sometimes in ways that felt just a little more personal than expected. Not enough to confirm anything, but enough to keep people wondering. A hint here, a comment there. It all added to the mystery. And then, after decades of silence on the subject, Suzi finally decided to speak. Now at 75, she isn't looking back with filters or holding anything in. In a recent interview, she opened up in a way she never had before, giving a rare glimpse into what that relationship truly meant to her. Not just a working partnership, not just a friendship built on convenience. Something deeper, something that had been shaped by years of shared experiences, highs, lows, and everything in between. She described a bond that had stood the test of time, one rooted in genuine connection. The kind that doesn't fade when the spotlight moves on, the kind that stays with you, quietly, long after the tours end and the noise dies down. That moment, her finally saying it out loud, shifted everything. Almost instantly, the story took on a life of its own. Across social media, in fan communities, and among music historians, people started revisiting their past. Old performances, interviews, collaborations. Suddenly, everything was being looked at through a different lens. What once seemed like simple chemistry now felt layered with unspoken meaning. But beyond the speculation, what stood out most was how human it made them feel. For decades, both artists had existed as larger-than-life figures, icons tied to timeless songs and unforgettable performances. This, though, was different. It pulled them down from that pedestal and reminded everyone that behind the music were real emotions, real relationships, and real stories that didn't always fit neatly into headlines. It also challenged something deeper within the industry itself. There's always been this quiet expectation that artists, especially later in life, should protect their privacy, keep certain chapters closed. Suzi's decision to open up pushed against that idea. It showed that honesty doesn't have an expiration date, and that sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones told last. For fans, it created a new kind of connection. The music they'd loved for years suddenly carried more weight, more context. It wasn't just about melodies and lyrics anymore, it was about the lives behind them. The reaction reflected that. Many praised her for the courage it took to finally share something so personal after keeping it private for so long. Others saw it as a defining moment, not just for her legacy, but for how stories like this are told in the first place. Even within the industry, voices started weighing in, pointing out how moments like this add depth to artists who have already given so much. It reinforced a simple truth. Behind every legendary career is a personal history filled with connection, vulnerability, and sometimes unresolved emotion. And interestingly, it doesn't feel like the end of the story. If anything, it feels like a new chapter opening. There's talk, curiosity, possibility. Whether that means future collaborations, deeper conversations, or simply a renewed reflection on everything they've shared over the years. For Chris Norman, Suzi's words inevitably bring their own weight. Hearing something like that after so much time has a way of making the past feel present again. And whether it leads to anything public or remains something more personal, it adds another layer to a story that never fully faded. Now, in the later stages of their careers, both artists stand as examples of longevity, resilience, and authenticity. Their journey shows that music isn't just about performance, it's about connection. The kind that can last a lifetime, even if it isn't always fully understood in the moment. Suzi Quatro speaking out at this point in her life isn't just another headline. It's a moment that reframes an entire history. A reminder that some stories take years to find their voice, and when they finally do, they resonate in ways no one expects. Because in the end, beyond the fame, beyond the image, what truly lasts are the relationships, the shared moments, the emotions that quietly shape the music people come to love. And sometimes, the most powerful thing an artist can do isn't perform, it's simply tell the truth.